So when we first started, our oldest son was in 8th grade. It was tough for him to, in a sense, to be pulled out because he liked sports. He was in different avenues of extracurricular things, and so it was a little bit of a challenge.
Why did you pull him out?
Well, because one of our children had special learning needs, so we took a look and said, how can we best meet her needs? So we put her through all kinds of battery of tests and evaluations and things, and they wanted to label her this and label her that. We thought, no, that's not the problem. And so we began to see that it was a kind of a blanket approach. They could get more money from the government if they could establish that, well, she has special needs or special learning disabilities, where it may be. And we had a neurologist tell us one time that it's interesting to him that the people that the institutional school would say, well, these are on, need some kind of Ritalin or some kind of drugs to deal with it, if it really was a problem, they would have that problem again still all through the school. But he said that 50% of them were no longer classified that when they got to high school. And so his comment to us was that just proves to him that there's a mislabeling going on because there was not really a problem to start with. But if you have a problem with attention, you have a problem with behavior, well, what do? Well, classify them some way, and then that's a scar on that child's life growing up, and that they have to go to some special class or something that is socially unacceptable. That hurts them, and they're classified as a dummy. They're classified as really not part of a life itself. When if you have that child, you're homeschooling them, you can cater to their needs and find out, do they have a attention deficit? Okay, well, let's figure out how to deal with that. Is that a character issue, or is that something genetic? And I would say it's more of a character issue than it is. And so let's learn how to deal with that. If somebody is a kinesthetic learner and he has to have hands-on, you put him in a school situation, he's going to look at a blackboard all day long, he's going to go nuts. And so what's he going to do? He's going to act up. And why? It's not because he's a dummy, it's because he's bored. And so the home educator can be able to see that, find out, does my child learn a certain way? And if so, well then how can I have curriculum that'll meet that need? So it's really an issue of the parents seeing how to bring their child up to full maturity, learning to take those giftings, those ideologies that the child has, and form them carefully so that they can really get the best out of life and not be branded in some way that's a frustration for the child.
That labeling drives me crazy. But let's talk about subject matter. So many parents don't, every time I do a radio show on homeschooling, I get email after email after email of people saying, how can I find out more information? And the question is always, how do I know what to teach? How do I know what to do? How do I get more information? So let's start with subject matter. How do you know what to teach?
That's a great question, and what we've done as an organization, and they can find our website, by the way, and we can give them a lot of help on the website, and that's www.mache.org, so MACHE, and it stands for the Minnesota Association of Christian Home Educators. And on our site, we'll give them steps about what they need to do. There are legal things there. They can find out more about what are the requirements to home educate, what can we do as far as curriculum, what kind of curriculum should I do, where can I get some help. And we have occasionally around the state, we hold workshops called Considering Home Education Workshops. We have other workshops that are finishing the journey, which involves teaching the high school level, because some parents will get up to junior high and they say, I don't know, that science is making me nervous, and can I do this? And we're saying, yes, you can. And there are co-ops and support groups. So what we've found out then, that information there, if we can give them that information, they can take it and run with it. And there are people, a lot of support groups that hold their hands a little bit and get them started, and those types of things. So the opportunities abound. But the website's a good place to go to get started with what I need to do next, and what level do I need to enter my child, and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think fear of parents, I don't think I can do it, is the thing. And once they realize, once they get started, once they meet other people who did it, they'll just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And what a difference it made in their children's life, too.
Yeah, and it's a family issue. I remember when we first started, and Linda was expecting our, let's see, no, we just had our 7th child at that time, and so that's a big load for her all of a sudden, going from not doing in homeschooling, all of a sudden having somebody who's in 8th grade, somebody who's in 6th grade, somebody who's in 5th grade, somebody who's in 3rd grade, and then 3 others that are 3 or 4 that are toddlers and below. But she called me about 3 weeks later at the office, and she said, you know, I have to tell you, I have never been more fulfilled in my life because she was investing in her children. So rather than watch them get on a school bus and drive off, she was investing in their lives, and they were learning, she was learning, and she would call me many times over the years and say, guess what we learned today? You know, I didn't know this, they didn't teach me this in school, and it was just because of the fact that she was engaged with them, and hopefully they learned a little bit too, but she was getting more out of it than they were.
Isn't that funny how that works?
It is exciting.
You learned, in some cases, more from your children than,
yes.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So how many people homeschool in Minnesota?
Well, statistics will vary a little bit, but well over 17,000 in the state. We represent about almost 3,000 families, MACHE does. But of that group, you don't have to report until the child turns 7, and then you need to file a report to the school superintendent by October the 1st of that first year until age 16, and then they don't have to report either. So from ages 7 to 16, which is the mandatory school age, then that's when those reports will be. So the reports that the state will have will reflect everybody who reports within that age period. So there could be many that have 5- and 6-year-olds at homeschooling, and others that have high school children who they don't report because they don't need to anymore legally.
They're 17 or 18.
Correct. And some of them are graduating early also, and they're going on to school.
I bet most of them are graduating early.
Well, a good number will.
And I bet most of them can test out of a lot of college classes, too, judging from the homeschoolers I've met.
Yes, and Minnesota has some good laws in place regarding the PSEO, the post-secondary education option.
Right.
So a lot of students at homeschooling that take advantage of that, and they'll have 2 years of college credit under their belt before they graduate from high school. They move into college, and they're on the fast track if you're looking for academics.
Right, which more parents whose kids are in government school should be taking advantage of that as well.
We think so.
Yes,
sure.
I definitely think so, too. So does the state of Minnesota tell you what you have to teach them?
No, and we're thankful for that.
Yes, we are.
The laws have been
they tried to change that just recently, didn't they?
Well, there was some concern about that, and we always have to kind of keep our eye on the legislature.
Always.
Yes.
Keep our eye on the legislature.
Because we don't like them touching the homeschool bill too much, the statutes that deal with home education. This last year, there was what we call the mandate reduction bill that we brought forward, and it was a very good thing that a lot of the restrictions that had been placed on homeschoolers, particularly red tape, bureaucracy, paperwork stuff that was burdening both the homeschoolers and the public schools, that's been done away. And so the laws have been eased up, we think, to the best at that point. And so there are some things, but they don't tell you what you have to teach as far as curriculum, but you do have to teach certain subjects. So math, English, history, those type of things, science. You want to cover the basics, and so they do want those covered. And the parents are going to cover those anyway too. But it's
math,
good.
English, science.
Science. So you want some history there. Usually PE. They want to make sure that they're doing some physical things as well. So
Constitution.
Basics.
Wouldn't you think they'd be teaching the Constitution?
We do.
Thank you.
Most homeschoolers understand quite a bit about the foundation of our country, the Judeo-Christian value system that was in place back in that time. David Barton is a good one who has brought that to the forefront. You're probably familiar with David. Does a great job of that. And so we like to look at the true history types of things. So can we have the Constitution taught? Well, we can in our schools, yes, in the home schools, but sometimes they doctor it up. And there's a lot of revisionist history going on the last few years, and that's sad because it's distorting the true value of our country and really what brought us to a point of greatness in that sense. So we can teach a lot of things.
And you can teach character.
Yes.
You can teach Christianity. You can teach, I mean, any number of things that you determine is important for your family, your children's education.
Yes. And because that value system is important, that teaches them that foundation for life. So it's not just education. In fact, I've told folks before too, when you read Scripture, there's a portion in the Word of God that talks about a list of things to add to your faith, and then the first thing it says, add to your faith virtue, and then add to your virtue character, and then another list, the list goes on beyond that. And so what we found out is if you teach knowledge before you teach virtue or character, you just did a flip-flop. And so what happens is you have an educated fool. But if you want a wise person, you teach virtue, character first, that's based on a biblical foundation from our view, and then you teach knowledge. So you can teach them both at the same time. But if you don't have character and virtue, then again, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because then how are you honest in your business dealings? Are you going to cheat on your taxes? Those kinds of things. So knowledge will get you in trouble, and that's where foolishness comes from, a misapplication of knowledge. But wisdom and character and virtue, along with knowledge, that's a pretty unbeatable product.